The 2024 presidential race still may seem a little bit far away, but at this time next year, we will know exactly who the next president will be for the next 4 years. So I think it is definitely time that we take a look again at the GOP nomination race and see how it's really shaking out. Which candidates have started to rise, and obviously there are some candidates who either have dropped out or soon will be dropping out potentially. So we're going to take a look at all of that. Thank you for watching, and let's get started. So obviously the front runner is still former President Donald Trump. He is currently sitting at 58.5% in the polling. The fact that he still has an actual majority and not just the plurality um, definitely is pretty telling with how he definitely doesn't have the nomination secured by any means. There haven't even been any caucuses or anything. But it's pretty clear that he's just a cut above the rest right now. Within the polls that have been tracked recently, the dates of all of them are between the 17th of October and the 11th or the 5th of November. Um, all of these polls show the absolute lowest of his support at 50%. In his worst poll, he is still at a majority. So clearly, his opponents have some work to do if they're actually to unseat him for this nomination. Um, in second place still is Ron DeSantis, nationally still polling a little bit up at 14.4%. It was closer to 13% not too long ago. Um, Maybe a little bit of, recently he's been gaining a little bit of traction, but he's definitely still down from the 30% that he was at around January, March of this year, before he had entered the race. Um, so ultimately, that negative momentum is hard to come back for any candidate. I think, I mean, he's still in second in various state polls, which we'll get to. He is doing well, depending on what state. Um, but you really have to look in the mirror, and you know, the DeSantis campaign will have to see what they can change and really try to gain some of that support back, and obviously even more if they truly want to defeat Trump. Um, Nikki Haley has risen up from about 4 or 5 to the from the last video all the way up to 3. She is exactly at 9% on average. Um, and she is polling the highest of any candidate that is not Trump or DeSantis has the entire cycle since polling began. Um, Mike Pence briefly was around 9% at the very beginning of polling, but after that, there was no one that was close to 9%. So the fact that she broke that threshold could be a signifier that she's prepared to break through a little bit more. Um, Many analysts, some analysts have said that she performed well in the debate, as well as the fourth candidate we will talk about, Vivek Ramaswamy, who's currently in fourth place with 4.7%. Um, so both could potentially be looking at having a little bit of a boost in the polls after the third debate happened. Obviously, the people who answered these polls that we're looking at right now did not see the debate because it didn't happen yet. So I'll be interested to see how that factors into future polling. Um, but definitely a couple candidates to watch. Still behind DeSantis, let alone behind Trump, still, of course. But a couple candidates to keep an eye out for. Chris Christie is next at around 2.6%. Tim Scott is at 2.5%. They both were in the debate. Um, Nothing crazy from either candidate has really come out, and they've had a little bit of trouble like sticking out from the pack. Ultimately, I don't know how long their campaigns will last, but I really don't think that they have a great shot at winning the nomination as of now. And then after that, you have Pence, who officially dropped out. Um, Still around 2% of support that'll go away. Burgum is not at a full percent, and Asa Hutchinson is also not at a full percent. Extremely unlikely that either of them maybe even like get a percent in the Iowa caucus, let alone actually get the nomination. Um, so let's now transition a little bit. Uh, Obviously, the national polls are important, but many of these states are winner take all delegates. So it's extremely important on how they're polling in the individual states. President Trump in Iowa is currently winning with a plurality of 47%. DeSantis is at 17%. Haley's at 14%. And everybody else is below 10%. Tim Scott would be next at 6.7. Um, Trump is kind of maintaining about 50%, like similar to the other polling aggregates that we've had before for this state. DeSantis is pulling down from where he was at one point. Um, Tim Scott is, hanging around 6%, which is definitely different than his actual national polls. Nikki Haley at 14%. We will have to keep an eye on that. The next state I want to take a look at is New Hampshire. Trump is at 46.5%. So still, you're seeing that Trump is consistently either going to have a plurality or just a straight up majority in every state that has polling, including in Florida. Um, DeSantis is polling a little bit better in Florida, like around 25%, but Trump is around 55%. So that 30-point margin in the state that Ron DeSantis won so convincingly definitely raises some questions for me about his campaign moving forward. Um, I do think that back to New Hampshire, as mentioned, Trump is around 46.5%, kind of maintaining where he's been. Nikki Haley is actually in second place, 14.8%. Jumped basically from, it was around fifth. She was behind Burgum actually for at one point, but she's now rocketed up to second. DeSantis is in third with 10.5%. Christie is 8.5%, and Ramaswamy is at 5.8. Another state that we were going to take a look at is the Arizona current polling data. And it's very interesting to me. It's a little bit of unique results compared to the other states. Um, Trump is at 54%. That's not different. What is a little bit different, DeSantis is in second place, 15%. That is not overly surprising or anything. Ramaswamy is in third with 6.5%, followed by Christie, and then Pence still, and then Haley. So it's definitely interesting that Arizona definitely does not seem to give as much support to Nikki Haley as other states, whereas Vivek Ramaswamy kind of seems to be hovering around 6 to 10% support from state to state at this point. Um, I think a lot of the base that he could have with Trump out obviously is still supporting Trump. So ultimately, I think that will put a certain level of a ceiling on any kind of campaign he has. And then finally, we're going to take a look at the Virginia current polling numbers. Trump 47, DeSantis 13. Um, and then you have Glenn Youngkin, who is not currently in the race, obviously from Virginia. So that's where those numbers are coming from. Tim Scott is at 6. Ramaswamy is at 5. Chris Christie is at 3. Um, so still, once again, Trump is having this plurality or even an outright majority in some of these states. So it's certainly looking pretty good for the president, former president, despite legal battles or whatever issue you want to raise. He's still maintaining about half of the Republican base solidly in his camp, plus a little bit extra right now, about 8% over half. And if he can do that through the states, he will have no problem securing the nomination once again. So let me know what you think. Do you think that Trump is poised in a great position to get nominated again and advance to the general election? Or do you think that someone else is on the rise or will rise from the ashes and take the nomination? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And thank you for watching all of this. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all in the next video.